All right, episode 4 time. We have been asked in the comment section a decent amount. Where the hell's our review for this? It's here. Here you go.
Here
Couple
it
days
is.
late, but I wore some '90s attire for you. If that does anything for you.
Sure, it does a lot for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got holes to prove its authenticity, even though people pay lots of money to have their clothes pre-frayed and ripped and oversized. And you know, when I was a kid, you got beat up for wearing things like that because you were thought of as poor.
And now you get applauded.
Now,
And congratulated.
now I'm too old now. Now I just look like, I'm trying to
A hobo.
I'm trying to look like I'm young and cool, and they're like,
You're young and cool.
No. No. But yeah, I mean, everything from my generation is like cool now. You know, the Converse were the poor kids' shoe,
Yeah.
and now they're cool.
Yes.
They've been cool for a while though.
They have been. Even in
but-
like the 2000s, they were cool.
But in the '90s, in the early '90s especially, they were not cool. Like they were, but they weren't thought of as cool by everybody. They were thought of as cool by the poor kids who could afford them because it was the cheapest fucking shoe. And now they're like $60, which is crazy to me.
Yeah,
But-
'cause they're just sneakers. They're just regular old sneakers.
Yeah.
But now the cool thing is not skinny jeans. Now that's what everybody is like.
Oh yeah,
making
everyone's
fun
like
of
against
millennials,
skinny jeans.
yeah,
now,
for wearing
yeah.
skinny jeans and for
Mm.
having like side parts, like side bangs, side swept bangs.
But I mean, that's how it always goes, right?
Mhm.
One generation does it, and the next generation thinks it's stupid, and then it kind of just the baton gets passed,
Yes.
right? Like the Converse started off as a basketball shoe in like the 50s, I want to say. At least that's my knowledge of the shoe anyway. And then it became like the freaking poor man punk rock scene shoe of like the 80s and 90s. And then it got picked back up again in like by the cool kids, because the cool kids wore it back in the basketball days. It was all like the cool jocks. But anyways,
Everything's recycled.
moving on. Yes, of course, always, always, always. It's weird to me now that all the '90s shit is basically what we thought of the '70s when I was in high school. Like all the cool kids that were into like the cool music, the music kids. They were always like, oh man, it's all about Zeppelin and whatever. It was all the '70s. And then now, yeah, this would be the '90s would be their '70s. Anyways, all right. So episode 4, Bear Down. So as far as the whole Thaisa thing goes here, I'm definitely leaning more towards that she is either schizophrenic or that she's got some kind of like alternate personality. I still can't explain why Sammy is drawing pictures like that. He does specifically say, though, and they replay it at the beginning of this episode of the previously on, that you're not the bad one. So that could be taken as, of course, the obvious interpretation of that would be like the bad one is the evil person I'm drawing in the pictures, right? Or she has this kind of split personality thing going on where no, the mom who's in the room right now, you're the good one. Like I'm the person I'm talking to that you're acting like right now, you're a good one. Or so, or I should say like, it's the other person that she becomes is the person he's talking about. Or it could be the other mom,
Right, which was something I thought of potentially, but it doesn't seem that way. The other mom seems to be, seems to be a good parent. I don't think we've had any red flags.
Well, the other mom isn't really around very much, right?
She is though. She's the one that takes care of him. Like Thaisa's the working parent, the one that's bringing in the dough.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying Thaisa
you're
isn't
saying
really
Thaisa.
around.
Right, yeah.
So we don't know. She doesn't know what's happening
I
with
see
the
what you
kid
mean.
at home.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, and we wouldn't know either. I don't know if I think she's schizophrenic, though. I have a feeling it's more about PTSD, which I think the majority of this show is. with other, mental illness thrown in, like anxiety and depression. The person that I think is most likely got some kind of psychosis going on is the daughter of the person who, the other coach that I guess owns the plane, right?
Yeah.
Because she's the one that isn't taking her medication and is acting
Lottie.
really weird. Lottie is her name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
she's more likely to have
she's the
some
one that isn't taking the medication,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, she's definitely
Mhm.
mentally, mentally unstable. But I don't know how that applies to. You're saying that with Thaisa, you're saying that the PTSD that is what created an alternate personality or brought something home
Well,
that she's passed on.
so I still don't know if it's supernatural or not.
No.
So that's the
No.
thing, is that I'm kind of feeling like it is potentially supernatural with whatever whatever Sammy's saying is maybe not of this world. But the way she's acting in this episode, though, I think that it's a lot of like stress and post traumatic stress, especially from the events of what happened after the plane crash, and everything that's going on with work. Obviously, she's in a very like highly demanding job. She's a politician.
Yeah.
And the whole point of this episode is to kind of showcase her in going to a dinner party where she's trying to make connections.
Sure.
So, and I think that everything's riding on that for her. Like she mentions in the beginning how important it is and how much she needs this financial backing from this lady. And the whole time, that she's there, she starts drinking too much.
Yeah.
On an empty stomach, as she says, and then everyone's kind of coming at her and sort of insinuating, like, that she was a cannibal or something happened. So I think it kind of all builds up in that point. But I guess it's possible she could be schizophrenic. I mean, the other episode where we see her as a kid could definitely point towards that. But this episode to me is a lot more PTSD than schizophrenia.
Well, okay. I should say first off that I'm using schizophrenia as kind of a blanket statement, right? So I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I can't make any, actual diagnoses. I'm really just saying that she's mentally unwell, right? And that her personality or something inside of her is splitting. To go to the point of supernatural, which we've mentioned, I want to say since the first episode, I don't remember there being anything like, if this was the only episode we'd seen so far, I wouldn't be thinking supernatural at all. I don't think there's anything supernatural about this episode.
No.
The only thing that anybody could think potentially is supernatural to a degree is when Nat is on the plane and she sees her dad with half his head missing, but this is just her guilt.
Absolutely.
Or her relationship with her father. She probably feels responsible for her father's death to a degree, right? She pulled the gun out, he grabbed it from her, he took the safety off, and then he shot himself with it. So she could blame herself. I mean, the guy, in my opinion, fucking good riddance. But it's her dad, and of course, everybody's going to take things differently. She seems to have kind of hated him, but seeing your father die in front of you, of course, is going to be traumatic as fuck. I don't think there's anything to suggest supernatural in this episode.
Right.
So if this season is only 10 episodes, we're not really hitting on the supernatural notes much. So I don't know. The only thing I really can explain is Sammy, right? So I think what could be happening there is that she's projecting some of her stuff onto him, right? I think I've already mentioned this, where she's talked about it with him, maybe when she's out of her fucking mind and she doesn't even remember doing it, and she's put these images into his mind, right? And this is why he's drawing it. And then all of her her interaction with her grandmother as she's dying, and as I said before, she doesn't see the guy in the corner till the grandmother puts the image in her mind, which would then kind of suggest what I'm saying to be potentially true, that she's now projected that image into her own child's mind. Her
Yeah.
grandmother put it into her head. She's now put it into his head. She's passing it down the generations. So, it could be zero supernatural here, but I'm still, of course, waiting for it to potentially go in that direction. It always could. I'm just not seeing a ton of evidence
No.
for it yet, but it's lingering because of things in the past.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. What you're saying makes perfect sense, and I have a feeling that it's probably going to be something more like that. I think the show is really heavily focused on, mental illness and unresolved trauma for sure.
Yes.
And that they're just kind of doing it in this artsy way, I suppose. But I'm hopeful for the supernatural just because I think it would be cool to see.
I'm on the opposite.
Really? You'd like it to
I'd
be
like
more
it to be
fully?
more,
Yeah, I don't know. I love supernatural horror. I
Sure.
like to see it done well, and I think the show has the potential to do it really well. But I won't dislike it, if it doesn't play into anything.
I think the way that you can please both of us is probably the way that would make both of us the happiest is left open to interpretation.
Which is what I
right?
ultimately would like.
Yeah.
I want it to be something where we could argue both sides of it.
Yes.
But everything like what you were saying about with Natalie too. I mean, she is a substance abuser. So I don't really remember if we see her take anything before she gets on the plane. But I really wouldn't be surprised if she was on some kind of drugs when she is getting on the flight, just because she does that. So obviously when she sees her dead father, I didn't think that was like his ghost or like, where they were landing was summoning him or whatever.
Right.
It definitely was her projecting or, having a freak out moment because the plane's going down. And she certainly does feel like, I think, a mixture of guilt and relief that he's dead.
We don't know if this is the first time she's seen him. She might see that fucking face every night when she goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or just anytime there's a stressful situation, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's her brain's, way of kind of dealing with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It was great. This episode, every episode so far, I feel like each one just gets me more and more interested and like really sucks me into the mystery. And it's, like you were saying, and I think it was the Day of the Dead review that we did, where it's like, with that show, we're not really kind of picking through everything with a fine tooth comb. But with this one, with Yellowjackets, we were really paying attention, or at least trying to, and trying to understand, what's going on. And I love that about this show. I think it's very engaging.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a good mystery, and I think that we have, I feel like with the information given, we have gotten as close as we're gonna get with what we're suggesting, but maybe not. Maybe we'll watch other people's reviews and be like, whoa, we didn't catch that at all. We're idiots.
Yeah, everyone has different interpretations. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the awkward scene of the coach having to try to poop while Misty's singing to him. Misty just has to make everything awkward as fuck. This is why the very attractive Christina Ricci can't seem to get a date. Because if she's acting like that, I don't care how attractive she is, guys are gonna be like, it's just not worth that crazy. I know I said in the first episode, I want to say, like, oh, guys would put up with anything. She's pretty fucking out there.
She's very out there. She's very invasive and very, like, overly friendly and, it's that sugary sweet kind of attitude that most people, when you are around somebody like that, you sense that it's fake or that it's hiding something. And I still, I like her character, to be honest. I actually do sort of feel like she's trying to look out for people. In this episode, I definitely got that sense more, but I also don't trust her still. I also do think she's very manipulative. But kind of in her own sick, twisted way, she's trying to watch out for others.
I get what you're saying there, and I definitely I do understand that. I don't trust her at all, not one bit. I've dealt with more crazy women than you, I think. So I'm just a little bit more guarded towards them. But Misty is a villain in her own right. I just feel like what she did with the black box is unforgivable.
Yes,
right?
That's
villainous as all
reason.
Fuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why, that's why I'm saying, I don't trust her, but I do think that in her head, like the way that she's painting the narrative to herself is that she's the hero, which is, you know, every villain thinks that, right? Like she thinks she's doing something good. And so, but it's also, you know, Christina Ricci, like I think it's her portrayal that is really what I like. You know, I think she does a great job at playing like she's like mousy and shy, but also like quirky and weird. So, and she just does a great job at it.
See, I don't see her. I don't see her as a hero, even in her own mind. Maybe she thinks she is, like you said, and I'll definitely follow you down that path of like, oh, I think I'm this great friend to Natalie, and like I'm, you know, following her, and I'm gonna go up to this reporter and I'm gonna tell her off because I'm sticking up for my friend. But at the end of the day, she is selfish as fuck, and everything is about her and only her. The decisions she makes in this show, it's all about her. She doesn't care about anybody but herself and what people can bring to her. That's the way I've seen her character since moment one. It's like, here's how I become popular and useful to these people, and here's how we stay here forever, and here's how I get Natalie to like me. I'm gonna rip the fucking plugs out of her car so she'll go with me. I'm gonna follow her around. I'm gonna, you know, threaten these old people with, you know, not giving them their medication for the night because they're not nice to me. Like, she is just so self-absorbed. She's a villain, man. She's just a straight up villain.
No, I see all that too, but I think also, you know, we're watching the Lost in Space TV show on Netflix, and we haven't finished the first season, but I guess I'm kind of comparing her in my mind right now to Dr. Smith.
Who's a horrible villain.
And she is like very, and obviously, you know, we could get more backstory that'll change it, I don't know. But at least where we are right now, she's super manipulative, very selfish, very, like everything that you said applies so much to her, and I just can kind of see this like sort of subtle difference with Misty. And it is, I think, just
I think you feel bad for her. I think you're
maybe
it's
a bit
like,
of sympathy or
sympathetic.
Pity.
Yeah. Because she is kind of pathetic.
Sure. Well, and she's, you know, like, especially when we see her before the crash, I think she has potential. You know, she's getting bullied, so that always makes me feel bad for somebody.
Sure.
And of course, it's like, well, if she wasn't bullied, would she have turned out like this? Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, I agree with you, though. I do think she is ultimately a villain in this show. But basically, every character has these unlikable traits. It's just that she has very little, if no, redeeming qualities. And the other characters, as fucked up as they are, do have moments where you're like, oh, okay, like, you know, they show some humanity. So.
Yeah, I don't think anybody who was in the plane crash and survived and are our main characters of the show, whether it's Shauna or Natalie or Misty, you know, whatever, or Thaisa. They all have terrible traits. Like, Shauna's all sorts of fucked up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We always talk about, like, every episode we're just like, Shauna.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say that Misty is, like, far removed from them as far as, like, her cons, you know, or the negative traits that she has. Shauna has a ton. Yes. Right? Natalie has a ton. Thaisa has a fucking ton, and I think even worse than we think.
Yes.
And we don't really know what really happened to Travis after the fact. He's a dick while he's there, though. When they're crashed, and he's talking shit to all the girls, and I think he's just being a kind of a typical teenage boy there, like, oh, like, let the man handle things, and you girls don't know what you're doing, especially in the 90s. I mean, people are a little bit more sexist back then. And,
well, yeah, some of it is, I think, him just being like a bullheaded, like, teenage boy, but also, you know, it's how people deal with hurt and pain, right? Like, some people, you know, lash out, and they want to be mean to others, and they want to, like, push the pain outwards, because it's like, well, if you're hurting, like, it makes me feel better, because maybe I'm hurting less, or you're hurting more than me, right? And for him, I think that's definitely what's going on, because, you know, in this episode, too, we see, as much as he is an asshole, obviously Natalie and him have a bonding moment where he tries to, ultimately successfully retrieves the ring, his grandfather's ring from his father's corpse, with the help of Natalie, and he gives it to his brother, right after being a total asshole to his brother and kind of, not being there when he was grieving. He sort of tries to make up for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that for me, that's how I was interpreting Travis's character, at least this episode, is he was very hurt and didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah, I'd be curious on my thoughts towards everyone as of right now in the show if we weren't flashing forward to the future. Mm-hmm. If the show focused only and only gave us the information that we have from the flashback sequences of the 90s, or I guess you could call the nowadays ones the flash forwards. Mm. I think that's the current timeline, right, is the now, and then it's flashbacks. Mm-hmm. But anyways, so if we only saw the flashback scenes, what would we be thinking of these characters? Misty's a villain. She broke the black box, right? Or whatever. It's a black box, right? I mean, that's the flight recorder. Mm-hmm. And then it has the tracking beacon on it as well. I didn't know if there were like two separate boxes, but I think they are the same. One and the same. Anyways. But so I would be like, she's the villain, 100%. Mm-hmm. And then I would say Lottie is definitely to be watched because she's a little cuckoo. I would think Shauna's a bitch.
Yeah.
For fucking her best friend's boyfriend. I would think Natalie is the most relatable to me, growing up in a broken home, abusive household, listening to, alternative music of the time, and just kind of trying to steer clear of your parents and all that stuff. So she's the one from this show that I relate to the most by far. I didn't get into drugs, but I definitely got very heavily into alcohol. So I can always empathize with addiction to that degree. So I don't think I would think anything negative of Natalie at this point. Mm. And as far as Natalie in present day, I don't feel like Natalie's really done anything terrible. I feel like she is just a fuck up who had a horrible life and is very regretful of how things turned out. Now, we're going to find things out, right? Mm-hmm. Who knows? We're going to get to that place where we're in the snow and the girl falls into the pit, and which people are thinking is Lottie, the girl, mm-hmm. Who hasn't taken her medication. And correct me if I'm wrong on her name, but I'm pretty sure you can look it up really quick. I'm almost positive that is it. But yeah, I just. And then other characters that don't live through, I don't feel like anyone else is all that terrible, right? I feel like a lot of what we're getting is like their present selves are making me a little bit more suspicious of them versus, just thinking about the past, which I think is interesting because it's kind of, we get to see what's happening before leading up to the events that make them these characters later. So they're leaving us kinds of like little bits of clues of who they are now versus who they are up until this point of the flashbacks versus where we're heading, which is the very, very first scene of the show where they went full fucking Lord of the Flies crazy people,
Yeah, well, I mean, with them being younger, I think you're always, because obviously who they become is dependent on the experiences that they go through, and it changes them. But with kids, it's always, in teenagers, there's that element of like hope and potential that's there. Like, they haven't gone too far yet, but like you said, that scene that we're leading up to is them going too far. So I think we'll have a maybe a change in our opinion of some people. I do like Natalie the best, as much as she is, a fuck up is really the most that I can see as far as a negative towards her goes. I have a feeling that she's going to be somebody that is, and maybe everybody kills someone eventually, but she's, the best shot. She's the one that is able to, catch the deer that they end up eating later in the episode. So I think that she might, end up killing somebody. Maybe even the first person that they eat before they start using traps.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but we'll see.
I mean, Natalie, she has all sorts of reasons to be fucked up.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know, her mom seems to be a drug addict of
Her
some
mom's
sort.
a drug addict. Her dad's like
dad's
an alcoholic, abusive asshole.
Yeah.
Who doesn't let her have friends or boys over. I
Mhm.
totally understand why she
And
is
then
the
she
way
goes
she is.
through what she
Yeah.
goes through in the plane.
Yeah, I get it. Like,
Right?
it's,
Yeah.
of course, she's, coping the way that she knows how to cope.
There'd be a lot of people who would turn to substances.
Yes.
After that, and
For
she
sure.
already was doing drugs
yeah.
before, so of course she's gonna gravitate.
Right.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about this while we were watching this show, and I'm sure that, of course, there's exceptions to every rule. But typically, when I was growing up in this era, and this might be true today, I don't know, but back then, especially, like, it always seemed like the kids that were into the like punk rock scene or the alternative scene and dressed a certain way and whatever, they always had pretty stressful, upbringings, and you could almost tell like what kids' lives were like at home,
with what kind of
music and the way they dressed and stuff. If like girls were like really into like poppy Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera stuff, you knew their like life at home was like totally normal, and they were like thought their life was horrible. They're like, oh my god, my dad is just so
like he grounded me because
so
I
annoying.
Came home late or something.
Right. And it's like, oh my god, my life's over.
You're like, my dad dismembered me.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, obviously people, can have a variety of musical interests, but
sure,
with that though, with like the punk music and everything, I think it's cathartic, right? Like people, there's something
it's
really
rebellious.
It's rebellious, and there's something just really kind of like exhilarating and freeing about listening to angry sounding music, especially if you're somebody who, like, I really love that kind of music, but I don't get outwardly angry very often. Like, I get irritated and annoyed more than I get like full of rage.
Sure.
And that kind of music is really nice for me because it kind of gives me that feeling without me needing to actually go through the motions of it, I suppose.
Yeah, catharsis.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster or anything else, right? You get that kind of cheap thrill, and it holds you at bay
Yeah.
as you bear down on what's happening in your life. All right, and Travis does not like being called Flex, so don't call him that, because like the Marilyn Manson rumor of the 90s, he supposedly had a rib removed so he could blow himself. Let me tell you right now, it ain't just a couple lower ribs that are stopping you from sucking your own dick, okay? You'd have to have like
lots of flexibility.
You'd have to have super flexibility. Watch the opening scene of a movie called Short Bus, directed by John Cameron Mitchell, the guy who did Hedwig and the Angry Inch. He did an NC-17 rated movie called Short Bus, and the opening scene is a guy sucking his own dick until he comes on his own face, which is really graphic. It's really him doing it, and but the movie's like a serious movie, but it just has hardcore sexuality in it. And if you haven't seen Hedwig and the Angry Inch, I couldn't recommend it higher if you're into like rock musicals. It's phenomenal. I showed it to her pretty recently, so
it's great.
Anyways, I just wanted to bring up the Marilyn Manson thing just because it was nostalgia at the time, and we saw a Marilyn Manson shirt on Kevin in the very first episode, and just the rib removal blowjob thing was a big thing. It was the Richard Gere gerbil in the ass kind of rumor of the time.
Everybody knew about it.
Everyone, his ribs removed so he can suck his own dick. Good for him. Money well spent. That's all I can say. And Shauna is trying to basically American Beauty her past, right? Like Lester Burnham does in American Beauty. He goes and he quits his job, blackmails his boss, goes and gets a job at the fast food joint in town, starts smoking pot and working out again, and just kind of living his best life back when there was like no cares in the world. So Shauna starts hanging out with Adam, and they're going and living like they're in high school again. She's going to ask people to buy alcohol for her, which the guy like so funnily like calls her out on, like, dude, you're not gonna get carded.
Yeah, and she's like, hey,
come on. And it's like 100.
It's like you look your age, like you look the age you are.
She definitely looks her age. There's definitely people that you meet. I mean, I have clients.
Sure, yeah, that you're
like,
like, what the hell? Like you're that.
You have a 16-year-old who looks
right.
25, and you fucking have a 60-year-old who looks 40.
Yeah, but she looks very age appropriate though.
Yes.
And I mean, she's very
Which is
cute.
70.
No,
kidding.
she doesn't look like that. She looks like she's in
45.
40. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in that era.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't card her.
No.
For alcohol. But that's not what it's about. They didn't forget their wallets. They just want this guy to buy them alcohol because they're trying to relive the glory days.
Right.
Which they're gonna try to drink the shittiest, cheapest alcohol on the shelf. And pour it into some Sunny D or something.
I know. Yeah, orange juice, some kind of Sunny D maybe.
When I was a kid,
you drinking vodka.
One of the girls we knew tried to mix her like some alcohol with milk.
Ew.
Just milk. She called it Filk. I don't know why.
Filk?
She called it Filk, and she drank like half of it and then just vomited everywhere. But that's what you do when you're a kid. I mean, we don't have to go through the whole thing right now, but I'm curious, let's not get into some big long thing, but I'd be very curious to hear about your first drinking experience, because I'm sure it's probably like everyone else's.
Oh God, I was so hungover and I got way too drunk. But it involved Jello shots. I'll say that.
Okay.
But speaking about milk and vodka or in alcohol, aren't white
and cream?
Well, yeah, but I was gonna say, aren't white Russians made with milk? And...
Some eggnog would be the closest thing. Like true eggnog with actual alcohol in it.
Yeah, which is funny because I haven't ever had like alcoholic eggnog before.
Yeah, people fucking get drunk off that shit.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Well,
I do love eggnog. I wouldn't drink it now because I don't do dairy, but I like eggnog.
They make dairy-free eggnog, so we can get some.
I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass. I loved eggnog as a kid, but I don't think I ever had alcoholic eggnog. I might have.
I never did. Maybe, yeah. I don't remember it though. I definitely never got drunk off of alcoholic eggnog.
Yeah.
But when when you're a teenager, like you just drink whatever. You drink whatever you can get, and you're just like, great. Like I'm drinking alcohol and getting drunk. It doesn't matter how it tastes. And definitely as I've gotten older, I have a more refined palate for alcohol. I don't drink it often. I don't think I've ever had it since we've been together. But whiskey has always been like my favorite Scotch whiskey. And in that one show that we just watched, Lost in Space, they had Lagavulin, which is really good.
Yeah.
But I think, the vodka and orange juice, I don't know. I guess vodka is like a standard teen like liquor to drink.
Sure.
So.
Sure, the screwdriver is a very popular drink as kids. I had the very, obvious experience like everybody had, where you take a drink, and pro tip for anyone out there who hasn't drank yet, in case there's some younger people in the audience, pro tip, alcohol does not hit you right away.
No. Like
kids think.
It adds up.
You drink it, and so we thought it's like heroin. Or you just like, I've never done heroin, but I've seen people do it on fucking TV, and I've heard people talk about it. It's like as soon as they like, boom, it's in, and you're fucking feeling it instantly. Alcohol, you think as a kid, like I did, my friend and I who did it, we drank, and we took a shot, and we waited like a second, and we're like, I don't feel anything. And we took another one, and we're like, feel anything? Nope. You feel anything? Why is everyone such a pussy? And people were like, oh my god, after a couple drinks, I'm fucked. And we're like, we took like 6, 7 shots.
Oh my god.
And we were like, oh, I think I'm starting to feel something.
Oh,
that night was rough. We were literally like fucking daring each other to like see if we could ride our bikes straight out front. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're just fucking writing as fast as we could, and then the whole end, vomiting the whole rest of the night.
Yeah, well, that's the danger in alcohol is that you don't feel it right away, and that's actually what happened with me in the Jello shots.
Sure.
Is that they're tasty, and you're just like, all right, I'm gonna keep going, and then too many later, and you're unhappy, or at least I was.
So Shauna and Adam are trying to relive these kinds of experiences here. They get drunk. They go miniature golfing. She bets him that he can't knock it over the fence like Happy Gilmore. And to which she wins. But interestingly enough, what Adam wants in his end of the deal is he wants to know something very personal about her. Now, this is very true to the rest of the show, especially with Thaisa. Everyone she interacts with is like, what really happened out there, right? The rich chick who comes at her, she's like, oh, it's just us. You can be, completely forthcoming with me and honest, and bring that candor to the party here. And I don't know, a lot of people are speculating that Adam is some kind of a plant.
Yeah, that's what I thought. This to me is, you even said during the episode that he was fishing.
Sure, absolutely. But him saying like, the only thing I want from you is I want to know personal details. Now, this could be just completely harmless. Like, he's into her. She's completely closed off.
Right.
And he's just someone who's genuinely interested in who she is. And he's like, I want you to be open with me. And I've known plenty of people like that. And I've seen plenty of movies. And I've known plenty of experiences like that where it's like, I want you to be honest and open with me. Like, if anything else, I just want you to be completely open and honest with me. So this could be, us just being paranoid about his character, right?
Yeah.
And we're just trying to fill it in and be like, oh, he's up to something. He's got some ulterior motives here.
I don't know, though.
For drama's sake, he's probably like trying to find out something about her because he like rams on his brakes and makes her smash into the back of him, and he just so happens to have an auto body repair shop and all of this. Maybe he wants to sell her story. Yeah. But he's going about it in an insanely fucked up way.
Yes.
Like he's screwing her.
Yeah.
Literally, both ways, figuratively and literally.
Yes, and I'm still kind of thinking that the reporter, book agent is maybe, that he's on her payroll
tag
or
team
something.
Effort.
Yeah, I have some feeling about that. I don't know if that'll be true.
Very possible. I was thinking that too.
Yeah, but I think also, all the people like with Thaisa. Everybody, I think, and this is maybe true to life, that like if people went through something that was like shockingly tragic and traumatic, especially, and there were details that were left kind of uncovered, I think that a lot of people, it's almost like, how if you're insanely wealthy and you can't really trust that people around you want to be your friend. I think this is a similar kind of situation in that they can't really trust that people, don't want to just like accept that there's parts of their past that they don't want to talk about anymore. They want to know everything.
Yeah.
So, and whether or not Shauna's husband knows everything, because he's not, he wasn't in the crash, I don't know. But obviously his girlfriend at the time was, and then Shauna as well. So I'd be curious to know if he actually has any further information than, the general public.
And as far as we know, she never comes back.
Right. We haven't seen
She's
her.
Probably dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the assumption at this point, is that the people that we've seen in the past that we don't see in the present are more than likely dead. But who knows?
Anybody could pop up.
Exactly, which is exciting.
We could see a one-legged coach pop up.
Yeah.
You never know.
He could be there.
He could be. I definitely think there's going to be I'll say at least one for almost positive that we don't know about yet that did survive. They could even have someone who they thought was dead pop up. Yeah. So that's a definite possibility. But either one or the other is an almost guarantee. Now, from there, how many other people, I have no idea. But we only have so many players that are, of interest at the moment. that aren't these 4 or 5 remaining people, the 4 girls and then now the dead Travis.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only so many extra characters that we have to really draw from at the moment that are getting a focus on them. I'd say maybe 4 or 5 other people that are really getting like a spotlight on them, and then there's like background people that you're like they're kind of a familiar face that you see that's gets a line every once in a while, but I don't see any of those people ever being relevant, right? They're always kind of cannon fodder, and they'll die off throughout the show. So who it would be, I don't know. I could definitely see it being Travis's brother, because he's going through some trauma right now for sure, and he's kind of becoming a little unstable himself. So we'll see. I don't know, of course, but he'd be my first guess. But it is kind of a very female centric show. So
Yeah,
I could almost feel it another girl like the
redhead is who I'm thinking is likely to pop up. Which she and what's Shauna's friend's name again?
Jackie,
I
think.
Yeah, the scene with them when they find the plane. I have it in my lap. Is that what you heard?
Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead.
The scene where they find the other plane, right? So that's something that's pretty major. I think that happens in this episode, that they find a whole other plane crash, which is
that runs. That
is likely the guy in the cabin, or at least that's the connection that they're making. And yeah, the plane turns on, and Shauna's or not Shauna, Jackie's in front of it, and she pushes the redhead, and
I think it's Jackie.
There's some other people out of the way, and then she's like, "We're even now, right?"
Yeah.
So, that part, it's not so much that her saying that is like the major part of the episode, it's more of the discovery of the other plane.
Yeah.
It's like, God, like, are they going to find another plane or like a helicopter, or like what else has been downed? And
well, this kind of goes towards our thing of like, Jackie, yeah. This goes towards our whole thought of there being other people out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, in this, seeing the plane made me think of like a Bermuda Triangle type of thing too, though.
That the planes are being brought down specifically, but this plane was landed and then tied up.
They
say something about like,
says like they didn't want them to leave, or they didn't want them to get away, or something along those lines, because the plane is tied. But do you tie a small plane after you land it somewhere? Like, why would you do that? The only reason that you do that is so that somebody can't fly off with it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't understand that, and I saw that it was like something was totally. I didn't really get a good look at it. It was a real quick shot of something.
Neither did I.
And I thought it was like I thought it was like in the engine or something, or like on some part. But I just saw it so quick that I was like, what was that? Was that tied to the fucking chassis, or was that tied to the mechanical part of it, or like I don't know. I'd have to look back at it, and I don't understand what the meaning of that is. But they get a gun into this episode, and they kind of compete. They don't kind of compete. They straight up compete for who's going to be the crack shot of the crew. And it's down between Travis and Nat. And Nat wins out after she takes a breath and focuses. And she becomes this crack shot out of some Western movie. And they go out hunting together. And she's not very fond of him. And he's not very fond of her, but they do bond over the digging up of a corpse together.
Or really over abuse of parents, because that's kind of what the whole...
But that's like, I don't know, what gets them to kind of let their guards down, right? And get them talking about that kind of stuff.
Which there's a term, though, for that, too, is like the trauma bonding.
Sure.
Right, which is a very unhealthy way to bond with somebody, for the most part. Because you're bonding, like, there's like a specific definition that I don't have off the top of my head, but it's not just like, oh, we're sharing our trauma and like, let's, like open up about our past. It's like, you have a traumatic experience together and you bond specifically like around that and then around other trauma. Like, so your bonding isn't, as wholesome as it should be.
Sure, you're your union
Mm.
is made up of negativity,
Exactly.
right? And so
Which,
it just spawns more negativity.
right.
Right. I get it.
Which obviously with Natalie, there's a theme of angry men so far in her life,
Sure.
which is unfortunate.
You know, and a lot of girls, I'm sure, you know, men have this issue too with their moms, but a lot of men who have really shitty abusive fathers gravitate towards shitty abusive boyfriends, right?
Yeah.
You learn it at home, and you think that's love.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, so now none of them know how to fly a plane, so I don't. What are they gonna do with that plane? Nothing.
No, it looked like it was also
But
not in good.
the
condition.
radio might work on it, so
Yes.
that'd be the first thing
Parts.
you'd want to try,
Yeah.
right? You'd want to get on the CB and you would try to communicate with somebody. That would be the first thing that I would go towards for sure. Now, whether or not they'll do that, I don't know. Maybe freaking Misty will go and sabotage the plane before anyone can
God.
get there. It's
Lights
very
it on
possible. And then she
fire.
could, blame it on somebody else. And this
Yeah.
is what like pits them against each other. Like, oh my God, there was a CB in there, and now it's gone. Who did it? And then stash it in someone's bunk
Oh man.
or whatever,
that
and be
makes
like,
sense.
her, you
Yeah.
get her.
Yeah.
You could definitely see it going down that way. Which then I think we're done with any sympathy towards Misty.
Towards Misty, yes. If that happens, then definitely it's gonna be.
Her
like,
smashing
come
the
on.
black box is enough for me.
It
Shouldn't be for you
is,
too.
yeah. But I'm just trying to see the whole picture, I guess, with her.
Shauna seems to like slitting this animal's throat a little too much, but
Yeah.
this is kind of harkening back to her killing bunnies
Yes.
in the yard,
Mm-hmm.
right? She likes the thrill of the hunt,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But
And
she
that's
didn't
almost
even
part
hunt
of
it,
what's going on with her going after her best friend's boyfriend, or her going after Adam, her going after the bunnies in the yard. She likes the thrill of the hunt. She likes the dangerous behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. She definitely enjoys it, and it's she likes feeling life drain out of an animal, even though that animal was dead. But
Yeah.
it's the blood.
She definitely seems to enjoy it.
She does.
Yeah. And are they eating this deer raw? Because it sure as shit seemed like they were, and they were doing it in front of a fire.
I think they were putting it on sticks.
It looked fucking
and
raw
roasting
as
it
fuck when they were eating it.
It did, but I think that's how they
There's
were
blood
cooking
all
it.
over their fingers and such.
Yes, it was very rare for sure, but I
Very
think they
rare.
were trying to cook it on sticks over the fire.
I didn't see anyone doing that.
I saw one person at least with a stick, and they were poking it out. It was
Towards the fire?
Yeah,
Okay.
So-
I didn't see that.
because God, eating it raw would be. I mean, they have a fire. Why not try
Yes.
to cook it?
Sure.
But obviously, that's foreshadowing potentially, right, of cannibalism or something going on, because it's all over their faces and it's gross. And then at the dinner party too, when they're bringing out the platter with the pig's head, it turns into a deer.
Yeah, deer head.
A deer head
Sure.
briefly. So a
Yeah.
lot of stuff with food.
Yeah, she's just, obviously having flashbacks. Right?
Yeah.
Again, nothing supernatural.
No, that's just a flashback.
That's just a flashback, like Nat's dad on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
That's just trauma, blending through into reality. But yeah, I mean, I think if an animal is that fresh, you could eat it raw. But I just think that I'm gonna pass.
Me too.
But I guess in a certain situation, I'll fucking eat whatever I have to.
Well,
survive.
yeah.
I'll eat my neighbor. I'm ready.
I'd eat my neighbor. I don't know. I guess probably deer and I don't know. There's certain animals that I think it's safer to eat raw. I know pigs are one of the ones that you're really not supposed to eat raw whatsoever. But I don't know about deer. I'm sure you could. I mean, people eat raw steaks and raw stuff all the time. Really rare, I guess, not raw.
Yeah.
But they
Sure,
might as
yes.
well be raw.
Oh, they're raw.
So.
Steak tartare. Completely raw. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very, very, fancy dish.
Bougie.
Yeah, absolutely. And you eat raw sushi, right?
It did, yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. But that feels different. That felt different
Why?
to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we have
Just
a
because
real
it's
reason.
not bloody,
Sure.
I guess, really is the main thing.
there's ahi tuna and all that stuff. Yeah, lots of people, and then the sashimi.
Sashimi. Yeah.
Sashimi. What is it?
Sashimi.
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 I can't say that word.
Sash.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah, sashimi.
Sashimi.
Yeah.
I am saying it right.
Yeah.
Okay. It didn't sound like I was saying it right. Okay, whatever. Anyways, really dreadful, awful excuse for why Shauna is as late as she is. They were out drinking. Like, she went to this hotel. She was out with him. They were out late as fuck.
Yes.
Like, they jumped in the freaking, off a bridge together into the water. They went back to his car. They fucked. They were out in front of a liquor store. They were playing miniature golf, and it was all during the night. And they also had sex in the hotel. Like, it's gotta be 3 in the fucking morning.
Oh, at least.
At least, right? And she comes home and she's like, we stayed late at book club. What? Who's at book club till 3 in the morning?
I don't know. I guess
Nobody. While she's drunk, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a drinking book club, and it's like all we do is drink and we don't talk about books.
Yeah, we just read the bartender's guide.
It's
book
awful.
club. Really? That's what the best you got?
Right.
Whatever. I don't think she cares, right?
No,
She's
she
like, you're a
doesn't,
cheating piece of
obviously.
shit.
Exactly.
You're lying to me. So I was like, I'm not even gonna think hard
Right.
to come up with it.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends with Misty calling Shauna and telling her that Travis is dead, which really upsets Shauna. And we haven't seen any of their relationship yet, really. So we don't know what that's gonna, morph into or what. I don't know if she's fucking him too. She seems to be into that.
Yeah, she was worried and scared, I think, was the feeling I got from her. So definitely
that
concerned.
people are like coming after her next,
Right,
maybe,
yeah.
or that, because it really, what's happening here for all of them is they're afraid their secret's getting out.
Yes.
Right, they're all trying. Like, they made a pact. We're going to keep our mouths shut. We're all going to stay away from one another. None of them are friends. None of them are hanging around each other. No one knows anybody. Misty and Natalie are just kind of getting together to, go after Travis, who's kind of, become a recluse and is living this sheltered life now. He's just like, I'm out of here. And then Thais has really put herself in the limelight, which I think is kind of what has brought this out, right? Is like, up until that point, they were keeping a low profile, and then she had to go and become some, like, political person. And now everyone's like, oh, hell no. Like, whatever. There's got to be someone. That's all I can think, is there's one extra person, or two, if it's a Scream movie, and they're coming back for revenge for being left out there or whatever. And when they see, Thais on the news, it's like, that's fucking it.
Yeah. Well, see, this is why I think it would be cool to bring the redhead in, because, she gets left on the plane and they think that she's going to die. And I could see it happening again where they think that she's dead or that they killed her, and then she's back again.
Sure.
Which, I would
Guess
enjoy.
who's back?
Yeah.
Back
Redhead's
again.
back.
Speaking of the 90s. That was the 90s, right? Slim
Eminem?
Shady?
Slim Shady?
Yeah, that was
Slim
late.
Shady.
That was late 90s.
I
Yeah,
think so.
that works.
I don't know. Okay.
I don't think Eminem was out at this time or popular when
No, it
this
would've been late,
series is
yeah.
taken. I think it's 98. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm not really a rap guy, so I wouldn't really know.
Mom's spaghetti.
That's the lyrics she knows. So, anyways, there you go. Yellowjackets. Hopefully, Kaylee pressed record, and we actually got this. If we didn't, she's dead.
Oh, sick.
Sick.
Alright.
And then she'll come back for revenge in 30 years. We'll see. What do you guys think? Do you think that any of these characters are coming back for revenge? That one of them's still alive that they don't know of, or maybe they do know of? You're thinking redhead. I'm gonna go with Travis's brother.
All right.
That's what I'm going for here. But we'll see. I mean, it could be none of the above. It could go totally supernatural.
Yeah, maybe there's demons and ghosts.
We'll see.
Ghost planes.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, till
Smoke
next week.
monster.
We're gonna try to get to this next one on time. Sunday night. We'll watch Dexter. We'll watch this, and we'll review both right after. We're supposed to do Slasher Sunday too, but we're gonna do that on Saturday. We're good. We got this. It's
We
tough
got
work.
this.
This is like an hour fucking review. So, anyways,
Yeah.
all right, guys. Bye.